Elvis fans, so this is a very sad video. It's to do with Elvis Presley's mother and her passing. Vernon and Gladys Presley had been to visit Elvis. Elvis had been living in Kylie near Texas whilst doing basic training at Fort Hood. On the way home in the car journey, Elvis's mother started to feel very poorly, so they decided to go to the Memphis, Tennessee Methodist Hospital and get her checked over. So once Elvis found out that his mother was seriously unwell, he demanded leave from the army or he would go AWOL. And eventually it was granted that he got 7 days leave so he could go and sit with his mother in the hospital, which he did that. And whilst Elvis was resting from being sat with his mother, he received a phone call saying that she had passed away from Vernon Presley. This is a short video explaining how things panned out.
She was telling me, son, I'll be all right. You know, but after I get out of the movie, said, I'll come back up here and see you and all. And she said, no. I said, that's okay. Said, you just go on home and get some rest. And the phone kept ringing downstairs. I got up and I run downstairs and I get it, and it's Vernon on the phone. You need to tell Elvis, and that's as far as he got. You know, he was sobbing.
So it's August the 14th, 1958. Elvis is 23 at the time. Elvis receives a very serious phone call from his father.
The nurse took the phone and she said, you need to tell Mr. Presley that his mother's taking a turn for the worse and needs to get up here.
And Elvis had been sat with his mum for a few days at her bedside, so this was a shock.
I said, look, the nurse called and said, you know, you need to come up here because your mama's gotten a little sicker.
And Gladys Love Presley had been struggling.
He just threw some shoes on, no socks. I mean, he didn't waste time. He didn't stop for red lights.
His worst nightmare was about to come true. She was only 46, so young.
When he got upstairs, all he had to do was he made around the nurse's desk, and there was a long corridor. And when he made that turn, his daddy was standing outside, and that was it. You know, when they saw each other, he knew.
And it's very well known how close Elvis was to his mother. She meant the world to him. He lived for her. So you can imagine the total shock that he was in and was going through.
I mean, they just ran to each other and embraced each other. Boy, that was one of the most pitiful things you'll ever see.
Gladys Presley, it's known that she had some depression. She didn't like being rich and that Elvis had become a superstar. She wished things were how they used to be. She turned to drinking heavily, which it's now known caused damage to her liver. She was also taking diet pills, and it was shown that she had hepatitis. She also had jaundice, so she was also overweight, so she was a very unwell woman. And unfortunately, when Elvis was called to the hospital, his mother had already passed, and he sank to his knees sobbing. There's some very famous pictures of Elvis and Vernon sat on the steps grieving, and this completely threw Elvis's world upside down. And I think eventually he moved her to Graceland where they could grieve with her. And after a funeral service, she was buried at Memphis Forest Hill Cemetery. And on October the 2nd, 1977, after problems, Vernon took the decision to move Elvis and Gladys' bodies to Graceland Meditation Garden. So this went on to affect Elvis Presley's life for the rest of his life. It was such a traumatic experience because of their closeness. And I think her passing haunted Elvis every day of his life. He could never get her out of his mind. The love, the bond never left him. He always spoke about his mother very fondly. And all of the circumstances surrounding Gladys Love Presley's passing are so sad for such a tender man who worshipped his mother. Thanks everyone, all the best.